Welcome to Democracy-ish. I am Danielle Moody.
And I'm with Jihad Ali, folks. And listen, we're living in the worst timeline. The timeline is so bad that it is making me defend some of the most atrocious, terrible people on earth. Oh, John Bolton. John bomb Iran Bolton, a man who was so extreme that about 20 years ago, he was seen as one of the most nutty right-wing batshit people of the Bush administration. However, because this country is so self-destructive, because this country refused to vote for a Black Indian woman, because this country wanted to destroy itself to feel great again, now that John Bolton has come out as, a sober elder statesman who warns about Russian interference and Donald Trump. And so, folks, why do I mention this? Because today, the Friday, where we're supposed to get a batch of the Epstein files, what does Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, do? Oh, he does what he threatened to do before the election. Oh, Kash Patel, that extremist January 6th, QAnon a promoter who has no law enforcement experience, who is Donald Trump's director of the FBI, who, Danielle, if you remember, had a list that he shared on Steve Bannon, the enemies list of people in the media and those critics of Donald Trump that he promised he would go after. Well, today, folks, they're not going after Ghislaine Maxwell, a pedophile. They're not going after the violent insurrectionists. They're not going after white nationalists, the number one domestic terror threat in the world. They're not releasing the Epstein files in full. They have decided to raid the home of the very same John Bolton. And again, folks, John Bolton is a piece of shit. But this is terrifying. This happens in dictatorships. And this is breaking news. And a neighbor who was interviewed by the media, John Bolton's neighbor, I don't know if you saw this, he was wearing a Trump is a national disgrace t-shirt. And he said, it's going to get worse if we don't do something to stop it. It scares the crap out of me. And then a Reuters poll just came out, Danielle. 57% of Americans fear that American democracy is in danger, including 4 in 10 Republicans. And with that, happy Friday.
Happy Friday, my friend. So let's talk briefly about the breaking news. So I don't know if I'm just so detached at this moment and still riding high from my holiday. But when Waj came in and said, "Oh, Danielle, did you know that John Bolton's home was raided?" I was like, "Yep." And like, did you know
She's
that?
Putting her lipstick, she goes,
I was putting up my lipstick and said, and then he's like, "Well, do you know that like the Epstein files were supposed to drop today?" Oh, I am just like, I'm so just outdone by the fact that, look, Donald Trump said everything that he was going to do. I think that what we are all in shock by, those of us who believed him the first time, was that the speed in which, right, John Pavlovitz, which I talked about yesterday, his piece that he wrote on his Substack, was talking about the speed, right? That here we are 8 months. And he's like, even I that had been talking about Project 2025, that had been, trying to wake people up. I am in shock with how much our democracy has descended, how rapidly fascism has escalated in this country. And so when you tell us, the Reuters poll, 57% of Americans believe that like, oh, democracy is at risk. And I'm just like, no, democracy was at risk during the insurrection. Democracy has been at risk since Donald Trump came down the escalator in 2015. So the fact of the matter is that no, democracy is not at risk right now. Democracy is done. Donald Trump has taken over Washington, D.C. He's going to add more troops. He has right-wing governors who just can't help but fall on their knees for him to provide more troops, when I hope to God. And let me say, and people are like, oh, Danielle, don't wish bad on people. I don't give a fuck. I ran out of fucks a long time ago. And the fact is that if you're sending National Guard troops, I really hope that your state doesn't get hit by a massive Category 5 or Category 4 hurricane. And then you want to turn around with your hand out and think that because you've done this dance for Donald Trump, that all of a sudden he's going to send you aid. Because here's the thing that we know to be
or their own National Guard members.
Right. Or here's the thing to be true. Here's the thing that we know to be true is that you should never negotiate with terrorists, right?
Yep.
Because here's the thing, they will always ask for more. So these folks think that they are doing enough right now by saying, oh, I'll send over McMaster, I'll send over 200 National Guard members to your, to Washington, D.C. to help keep it safe. Motherfuckers, you live there. That's the funny thing is that these, like, not McMaster, but like these right-wing members of Congress actually live in the district. And so you are out there just perpetrating lies in a place that you actually reside.
Yep.
Half of the time. So, for me, I look at all of what is happening, and is it terrifying? Yes. Is it going to continue to escalate? Yes. Have I said for the longest time, Waj, that things in this country were going to get bloodier before they got better? Yes. Have I said that by the time that we reach December, that America would be unrecognizable? Yes.
Yep.
It is August. We are about to hit September. Donald Trump has taken over Washington, D.C. And although they're pushing back right now and trying to get a federal court order, the fact is that this is about to happen in every state. Why? Because he's losing.
Yep.
And this is what hit dogs do when they are losing. They holler as loud as they can.
And amen. It's everything we've warned about, which is why I believe you and me have seen an uptick in some of our viewers and subscribers. And I believe that you share what I've received from some viewers. Oh, you were right. And it's the world's worst. I told you so, folks. I get no joy in it. Danielle gets no joy in it. We called it out only because Danielle is a Black queer woman. I'm a Muslim man, and we have a different perspective of America. We see the America that welcomes and the America that rejects. We see the America that says, the Statue of Liberty, and we see the America with the hood. We see the America that embraces the Paul Revere's, but if the Paul Revere happens to be a Black or a brown, we'll shoot it down. We see the America that says, oh, this is a multicultural melting pot, but then also built statues and buildings after racist traitors who tried to secede from the United States because they wanted to own Black people as slaves. We took Donald Trump's racism literally and seriously. We paid attention. We saw the evidence of our eyes and the evidence of our ears and concluded that Donald Trump is a fascist and that MAGA is a fascist movement. We read Project 2025 and said that is the world's most helpful Bond villain, telling you exactly what they plan to do. And voila, here we are. And Danielle and I think like a lot of people of color in this country, not just people of color, but a lot of folks, but especially people of color who have experienced a country that demands them to be welcoming when it doesn't welcome them, is we didn't suffer from a failure of imagination. And the one thing that is perhaps surprising is that, like you said, the speed at which they have gone full fascist. And the reason, like you said, they have gone full fascist is because, folks, and this is the one positive, he's weak. He is weak. These are the actions of a weak man. He is underwater in the polls, and we're going to get you all that information, right? His policies are deeply unpopular because this is an overreach, because even Trump supporters are like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We don't like the immigrants, but we don't want masked armed agents coming to our schools and going after our grandmother. Whoa, whoa, whoa. We voted for the lower prices, not stupid trade wars and tariffs that have now increased prices. How come the prices haven't gone down? Whoa, whoa, whoa. We like Medicaid. Hey, I'm on Medicaid. Oh, Medicaid is gone. That's not good. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Why are there National Guard troops in Washington, D.C.? I thought you'd go after the woke. I live in D.C. I need to go to the Union Station. I need to rely upon, Uber drivers. I have a bar and a restaurant. How come no one's going there anymore, folks? Yeah, huge plummet. So I hate saying this, but I was talking to a bunch of friends of mine yesterday. They're all people of color. Danielle, they echoed your sentiment. These are good folks. They're not sociopaths. These are people who went out of their way to warn people in our respective communities. These are the people who tried their best to say, you know what? Lesser of two evils is exactly that. Take Donald Trump seriously. Vote for Harris. For the love of God, keep pushing the Democrats. You know what they said? We don't give a shit. All the people who voted for Donald Trump, you need to suffer. That's what they said. They're like, this is the only way you'll learn. And even then, you won't learn. So all the whites who voted for Donald Trump, You're going to lose your health care? I don't care. All the Latinos who voted for Donald Trump, like one of my friends is the nicest guy. He goes, I don't care. I hope ICE comes to your house first. They said, I'm like, He goes, I don't care. Muslims, they said Muslims who voted for Donald Trump thinking they'd be fine. Yeah, I hope your business fails. And literally, they're like just sitting there smoking their shisha, like the caterpillar from Alice in Wonderland.
That's right. The image I just had in my head too. You all sitting around like,
they're like and they were like, this is what the country chose. This is what the country needs. And sometimes, if you warn your child, do not put your finger in the socket,
right?
And they do it, and they finally put their finger in the socket. You're like, do you learn now? And even then, Daniel, people will learn. But however, folks, even though I say that, it's part of me still.
You are better. I say this, you're a better person than most of us.
Because I know how many good, innocent, marginalized people who deserve better will get hurt. This could have been avoided, Danielle. That's what I'm saying. It could have been avoided.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I want to say this because it was something that kind of came across yesterday or sometime this week, which was, all of this could have been avoided, but I'm going to do you one better. And I'm going to go all the way back to when this could have been avoided. I'm going to go all the way back to the Civil War. I'm going to go all the way back to when America decided not to punish the Confederates.
Yep.
I'm going to go all the way back to when, instead of punishing the Confederates from seceding from the nation and causing so much unnecessary death and destruction, that instead those very same slaveholders, right, received money, right, received pay for all the income that they were going to lose because, oh my God, I'm so sorry that you're no longer able to enslave, torture, abuse, beat, hang, lynch, and maim enslaved Black people anymore so that they can do your bidding for free. And so instead of paying the people who had been harmed and victimized and traumatized, no, we instead gave money to the enslavers. And so the fact of the matter is that what we are witnessing right now in Texas with their gerrymandering and Donald Trump's desire for 100 new Republican seats and the plan that he's rolling out, these are the descendants of those very enslavers.
Yes.
Right now, the decision that Texas has made and celebrated is giving Black people 1/5 of a voice. That's even less than what their ancestors wanted Black people to be considered as human, was 3/5. And now they get 1/5 of representation in a state. So, folks, you have to when people say, how did we get here? How did we get here? This shit didn't happen just 10 years ago. It didn't happen just 15, 20, 30, 60 years ago in this height of the civil rights movement. It happened hundreds of years ago, right? Because when you do not punish those who betray this country and treat them as the treasonous bastards that they were,
and losers,
and you don't make an example of them so that history remembers them as the treasonous losers that they were, and instead you erect fucking statues and you name highways and elementary schools and you hold up these people as if somehow they are heroes.
Yep.
This is what happens. So when folks say, I don't know, this feels like it came out of nowhere. No, it's not. And also, I said this yesterday on the Danielle Moody show as well, is that, people talk about it and we are still reeling from the reversal of Roe v. Wade and the reversal of affirmative action and all of the reversals that are still to come, right? The Supreme Court just decided that Donald Trump could absolutely end National Institute of Health programs and grants because of their DEI. So meaning that research that is done on Black people for sickle cell, right, is no longer going to be funded because that's DEI. Research that is done on Black women and maternity mortality rates no longer going to be done because that is quote unquote DEI. But here's the thing: you have to understand that ever since these policies were passed, Roe v. Wade, affirmative action, et cetera, is that the South has been chipping away. By the time that Roe v. Wade was reversed, most Southern states didn't even have abortion access.
Yep.
Right? So, folks, like, we have to understand that we have bargained a lot of our freedoms away so that some of us could remain comfortable, but there were so many that have already been living inside of a fascist regime. And we would say to those people, well, just leave the South. Well, now the South has come to us. And because we have never cared directly about the collective and have only cared about what is in front of our face and outside of our door, now the chickens have come home to roost all over this country. And we all bear some responsibility in that.
Amen, Danielle. And to prove at Danielle's point, and to echo something we've said on the show for years now, and people thought we were crazy until now, we've always said the twin sins of America that this country has refused to confront, has refused to bury permanently, are what? White supremacy and greed. And the avatar of white supremacy and greed, of racism and cruelty and vulgarity, of misogyny, of hate, is Donald Trump. He's the avatar. And folks, that avatar of our sins is what's going to destroy this country from within. And just to show you what how it's all reboot, it goes back to the lost cause. That's what they call it, the lost cause. What was the lost cause? Oh, you know, losing the Civil War in which they wanted to enslave Black people. What did they call it 10 years ago? Economic anxiety. Instead of naming the fact that it was mostly cultural anxiety, instead of naming the fact that Donald Trump was a racist, instead of naming the fact that all the data and studies show that the main reason, not the only reason, the main reason why Trump voters went for Donald Trump was because the fear of what, Danielle? They were being replaced by who? People like you and me. If you go back and watch the 1915 movie Birth of a Nation, based on white nationalist books, that was the biggest movie in America, that was screened in the White House, that literally led to the revitalization of the KKK, that Birth of a Nation. What was the greatest fear of the white men in that movie? They were being replaced by Black people thanks to Reconstruction. If you look at the Civil Rights Act, what was the main reason why the white Southern Democrats went permanently Republican, Danielle? Can you tell them?
Went permanently Republican? Oh, I don't know, because the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
What more do you need to see?
But since then, Waj, what party has still been trying to court those white voters as if they have ever come back since then?
I'm so glad this, folks. We don't. I promise you. We sometimes get like Danielle and I have an outline based on some of the the stuff we're going to talk about. We don't have a script. Danielle sent me beautifully. Yeah. It's the Democratic Party, and I swear to God, Danielle and I have not talked about this. I'm so glad you brought it up. This is trending right now. Third Way is the Democratic centrists and all the corporate Democrats that that consult the Democratic Party. I don't know if you saw this, Danielle. This came out a couple hours ago. Third Way is circulating a memo shared first with Playbook DC, featuring a new blacklist of words Dems shouldn't use. The party that still tries to win over Chet, who literally calls you a pedophile and wants to kill you, that's Third Way, right? Check. I'm not making this up, folks. The blacklisted terms that Democrats are asked not to use by Third Way. Here we go. Privilege, violence, dialoguing, triggering, othering, microaggression, holding space, body shaming, subverting norms, systems of oppression, cultural appropriation, Overton window, existential threat, radical transparency, stakeholders, food insecurity, housing insecurity, unhoused, person who immigrated, birthing person, cisgender, dead naming, heteronormative, patriarchy, LGBTQIA+, BIPOC, allyship, incarcerated people, involuntary confinement. You think
I'm honestly surprised that they didn't add fascism, white supremacy, white nationalism, anything white. Like, I'm surprised that they didn't.
It's the same thing, though, Danielle. It's exactly what you said. It's the same thing of coddling white rage, coddling white supremacy, coddling hate, coddling misogyny. Instead of confronting it, bend the knee. Instead of confronting it, whitewash it. Instead of confronting it, reform them. Instead of confronting it, have Democratic President Jimmy Carter come out in the 70s and say Jefferson Davis and Robert E. Lee, they were patriots, right? Instead of calling Donald Trump a racist, a misogynist, a xenophobe, he had a racial trip up. And now third way is telling the Democratic Party, which is supposed to be the opposition party, while this shit is happening, don't use the word patriarchy, LGBTQ, incarcerated people, systems of oppression, and Overton window. Danielle.
Look, I think that these organizations are pointless. I mean, what I saw this week as well is that people are not walking or running away from the Democratic Party. They are fleeing like bats out of hell. The numbers show that people are leaving the Democratic Party in droves. They are registering as independents because this party stands for absolutely nothing. It stands for nothing. And so, I went back to the Civil War and said holding people accountable. I also now want to bring us to the 1960s, to the bombing of the church in Alabama, in Montgomery, Alabama, and the killing of the 4 little Black girls. Right? Do you know what the FBI didn't do? The FBI did not use all of the tactics that were used against the Black Panthers and against any Black organization to tear it apart. They didn't try and infiltrate the KKK. They've never tried to infiltrate and bring down, right, and disparage and just utterly shut down and jail these people in the way that they have those that have been fighting for Black liberation. And so you have to ask yourself again, how do we get to these places? How does this coddling happen? How does a Donald Trump happen? Seamlessly through history, when you don't hold white aggression accountable, and instead you look to coddle it. You look to find the ways to meet them at that rusted diner in the Bible Belt, where you can sit down and just understand all their levels of anxiety. Yeah, I would be anxious too. I would be anxious too if I was given all the ways to be successful and the path totally cleared for me and I was still fucking mediocre. I would be anxious too, right? Because it would show really clearly that I can't compete, right? So, I third way, they can go fuck themselves. I'm sorry. There is,
don't be sorry.
They're useless.
They have so much influence over the Democratic Party, folks. Those who aren't in the weeds, third way is all these centrists and all these Democratic corporate centrists who have consultants. They have a lot of sway over the Democratic Party. And to imagine, after everything we just said, today they come out and this gets kind of, shared. The fact that they're telling Democrats not to do this. I mean, it just shows you the coddling. Instead of confronting the oligarchy, coddle it. Instead of confronting white supremacy, whitewash it. And also a very quick point before we talk about the avatar of mediocrity failing up due to whiteness and wealth, Donald Trump. I have a piece coming out tomorrow on the Left Hook. It's Heidi Beirich, who was at the Southern Poverty Law Center following these extremist groups. Now she started her own center. It's I strongly recommend people listen to it. We spend 40 minutes. We really connect the dots. What is white nationalism? The roots of it. How is it defined? And how it's gone mainstream. Folks, to quote Rage Against the Machine, killing in the name of, some of those who work forces are the same that burn crosses.
Yes.
In this Trump administration, literally in the past 2 months, folks, Heidi has all the receipts. And I've been doing the research on this as well for 12 years. White supremacists, white nationalists, people who are tied to white nationalist groups, people who promote Nazi conspiracy theories, they're now in the Trump administration. They are now in law enforcement. I give you Kash Patel promoting the January 6th choir, promoting QAnon without any law enforcement background right now, unleashing the law enforcement against John Bolton, ICE agents being unleashed against brown and Black people. If you think we're crazy, if you think everything that we just said is nuts, believe the evidence of your eyes and ears, and they're all in service in the avatar, their king, their daddy of cruelty, white supremacy, misogyny, and mediocrity, Donald Trump. And here's a proof of the mediocrity of white rage. I said this with Joy Reid a couple of days ago. I was telling Danielle every single day, Oh, hit dogs holler. Oh, we need a lot of Cracker Barrels for their tears. They have lost their ish over that interview I did with Joy Reid, where we talked about the mediocrity and we talked about white supremacy. And they can't play on a level playing field with me and Danielle, right? So that's why they have to rig the system. And the worst fail up, like Pete Hegseth and RFK Jr. and their king and daddy, Donald Trump. Yesterday, he decided to cosplay. And so he came out with his Gestapo in Washington, D.C., right? And this is their king and their daddy. This is the man they worship. One of the things we're going to be redoing as your parks, I know more about grass than any human being anywhere in the world. We're going to be regrassing your parks. New sprinkle systems. It'll look like a Trump National Golf Club. Grass has a life. You know that. Grass has a life. We have a life. Grass has a life. The grass here died about 40 years ago. That's your king.
I don't even know, honestly, what to say to that. I really have no idea. Grass has a life. Mm-hmm.
But we have a life.
And we have a life. And the grass there died 40 years ago. I don't know, Waj, you live outside of Washington, D.C. Are you walking around on yellow, dead hay?
Beautiful grass, parks. Actually, crime is down at a historic low. People are doing fine. But as a result of Trump, economy is tanking. Uber drivers aren't going there. I want to stay away from there. And people are pissed. And speaking about people being pissed, the reason why he's going all out and fast tracking his fascist plan is because all of his policies are unpopular, Daniel.
Yeah. I mean, so let's just start here in DC. And I just, again, I did this earlier in the week and I want to do it again, shouting out Washington, D.C. residents who held a go-go concert down at 14th and U in Northwest Washington, D.C. And thousands upon thousands of people came out into the streets to protest the federal takeover. And, you know, and I said, yeah, God, look how crazy DC looks. People just singing and dancing to go-go in the streets. My God, roll in the tanks. But here is a new poll that 79% of DC residents oppose Trump's federal takeover of local police, and they don't believe it will reduce violent crime. It was the same sentiment in LA, and it'll be the same in any city. If Trump and Republicans actually cared about safety in DC, they wouldn't have ripped $1 billion in funding from the city. This occupation is performative. Goes on. Here are the numbers. 79% oppose, 17% support. Will Trump's actions reduce the amount of violent crime in DC? DC's violent crime is down 30-year low. 30-year low. Okay. There was a time when DC was the murder capital of the world, right? Of the country, I should say. And that was back in like the 80s and the 90s. It has since had an entire makeover and investment into DC. And so when you just look at these things, and I just, we'll go to Trump's poll numbers. This is from Newsweek. Donald Trump's approval ratings goes underwater on every issue.
Every issue.
Donald Trump's approval rating has slipped underwater across every major issue, according to new polling. The latest Echelon Insights poll conducted between August 14th and the 18th shows that voters disapprove of Trump's handling of the economy, immigration, foreign policy, and tariffs. Why does it matter? Trump's declining approval ratings on the economy, immigration, and foreign policy signal potential trouble for his broader agenda. His broader agenda is fascism, folks. So voter confidence is waning on issues that were once central to his platform, from economic management to hardline immigration policies. Foreign policy promises, particularly regarding Russia and Ukraine, remain largely unfilled, or how about not fulfilled at fucking all, highlighting a disconnect between campaign rhetoric and tangible results. Waj?
He's underwater. It's the
and I'm thinking to myself, if only.
Yeah. Oh, inshallah. I did say inshallah. This guy is not leaving. It's the world's worst. I told you so, folks. I hope I'm wrong. I want to be wrong. I've been wrong about the fact that I thought the biggest thing I've been wrong about, and I always admit it, I thought Kamala would win by 1.4 points, 1.5 points. Basically the exact reversal of what happened. I was just so confident that my fellow Americans, Danielle, after having endured the failure of Trump 1, after having seen all the crimes, after having seen the violent insurrection, after having seen, like we predicted, that the Republican Party would not mainstream and normalize, but would further devolve into extremism, that enough of them would not have the attention span of gnats, and enough of them would have enough of a memory bank left that they'd be like, you know what? I might not be that excited about Kamala Harris or the Democrats, but Donald Trump was an effing failure. And Americans were like, hold my Cracker Barrel. And so
I say this, and I'm not a tin pat conspiracy theorist by any stretch of the imagination, but given what we know about Elon Musk, Pennsylvania, and some machines,
you're not wrong about that.
I'm not 100% sure that Kamala didn't win. So, again, there was no investigation. She called for no investigation because Democrats want to be the fucking adults in the room. It doesn't matter if it costs them Supreme Court seats, looking at you, Barack Obama. It doesn't matter if it costs them elections, because they want to give the perception that all is well. And I said, what did she have to lose to open up an investigation? You already technically had lost the election. If Donald Trump could run all of these cases that were bullshit that got laughed out of court, but you had potentially credible information about what it was that Elon Musk was doing, what was happening in these places, that there were bomb threats. And the fact is that he did not win in a landslide, but because they did not have to steal in a landslide. They just had to do enough, right? And so, again, I know that you say these things about our fellow Americans, but when I think back to this time last year, and I think back to us being at the DNC, to watching the crowds that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz were drawing, to watching the amount of people that were on the ground, it was Obama level turnout.
Wow.
So it does not make any sense to me that you would have those numbers in those big arenas when Donald Trump was basically doing stand up in front of a Cracker Barrel or the Four Seasons landscaping parking lots, and you match that to the energy that people were coming out to with Kamala, that didn't result in the polls. So I say, let us not believe the hype and believe the lie that when Donald Trump said, oh, you only have to vote this one time, and I don't know, Elon did something wonderful with computers in Pennsylvania. He said it. So believe him.
And what we do know for a fact is, even with all that, he never got 50%. I mean, he barely won. He got 49% of the vote. He's never been popular, folks. So this is not surprising. New research shows that Trump's approval rating continues to plummet. 38%, down 9 points. Folks, he's still in the first 7 months, the honeymoon period, if you will, of the presidency. More than half of Americans say they disapprove of his job performance. He's failing, and Americans know it. And for those who joined us a little late, welcome. We start off the show with the breaking news that as he's supposed to release the Epstein files, which they won't, and as he has to contend with these horrible poll numbers, and as he has to contend with the fact that his overreach is now making him deeply unpopular, a new Reuters poll came out that 58% of Americans now and 40% of Republican voters fear for American democracy. And in order to distract, he's raiding the home of his former ally, John Bolton, right? This is all ramping up. Now, what we've been saying on this show is that he has two kryptonites, the two E's. Mm-hmm. Epstein.
Yep.
We said it, folks. We said it to Nancy Pelosi. She went on Chris Lansing show last month and said, well, Epstein is just a distraction. We need to get to bread and butter issues. And me and Danielle are like, shut the F up. Shut the F up. Nancy, we love you. Shut the F up and retire. Go all in on Epstein, right? First and foremost, you need justice for the hundreds of girls that were raped by Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and all these men who have never been held accountable. And number two, it is the only bipartisan issue that has united Americans, right? More Americans want to know about the Epstein files, and Donald Trump is negative double digits on the Epstein files because he's all over them Epstein files. So it's just smart politics. Talk about Epstein all the time. The other E, the economy, because this country, Danielle, as we've always said, loves money. This country loves the color green, possibly even more than the color white. And the economy, folks, no bueno. This is the state of the economy according to Americans. This is just a poll that came out YouGov yesterday. Only 4% of Americans believe the economy is excellent. Only 22% is good, 35% poor, fair, 36% poor. The American currency has gone down. Moody's has downgraded our credit rating. Tourism has gone down. Revenue from tourism has gone down. Measles has gone up. Jobs report came out terrible. Private sector has made very small growth in jobs report. What did Donald Trump do? He fired the very educated female commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics and replaced him with a Nazi lover who was at January 6th, who's completely unqualified. White supremacy, the mediocre fail up. He's trying to hide, he's trying to band-aid it, Daniel. Band-aid, 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 band-aid. But it ain't working. It's too many leaks now. Too many leaks. It's springing out everywhere.
And so when all of those leaks are springing out, what do you need to do? You need to gerrymander. You need to end how people are voting. Because again, I just want folks to think about this. I said this yesterday on the Danielle Moody Show. If Donald Trump was as popular as the imagination that has been and the web that has been created around him, right? If he was as popular as he says that he is, Donald Trump would be doing a rally a day across all 50 states, having tens of thousands of people coming out and praising him for lowering their drug prices and their egg prices and this wonderful, he'd hold grocery events, you know, those wonderful magical words, groceries. He'd hold events every single day so that he could show the world just how amazing and how beloved and how worshiped he is. The fact is that you don't see Donald Trump anywhere around his constituents anymore. You notice that, Waj?
Yep.
Donald Trump used to love a rally. You see him nowhere. He could be going around the country, rallying them around whatever it was that he wanted. He's doing none of it. Why? Because every time that we see Republicans with their constituents, they are running away.
Did you see the Elise Stefanik?
Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I did. And then she took to social media and said that it was left-wing lunatics, right? The same thing that J.D. Vance said during the fact that he was getting booed at Union Station. Oh, it's all these, left-wing lunatics. And Stephen Miller says, oh, it's all these white ex-hippies, these 90-year-old hippies and what have you.
Hippies.
So I want you to take a look. Voters think Trump is full of BS when it comes to voting by mail because this is his other attack. 60% say no excuse, absentee and early voting should be legal. 63% say the 2020 election was legit. Majority for both 2020, 59%, and 2024, 75% say mail votes were counted correctly. I want you to take a listen.
Feel that Donald Trump is full of BS. What are we talking about here? Let's take a look here. Allow anyone to vote earlier by absentee. In 2020, it was about 2/3. You get 65%. Years after years after years that Donald Trump has been complaining about mail-in voting. Where'd the numbers stand in 2024? Basically the same. 60% of voters say that anyone should be allowed to vote either early or by absentee without needing an excuse. And that actually includes, get this, even 37% of Republicans. You have a substantial portion of Republicans who believe that voters should be back allowed to vote either early or absentee without an excuse. So the bottom line is the American people aren't with Donald Trump. They think he's full of it.
Well, and this gets back to the 2020 election is where the basis of this comes from. And because in the president's false view that it was that this
it's
led
so
to
crazy
him,
it's tough to
that,
get
no,
out.
that this led to him losing the election, that he actually did win the election. So he says, still, regardless, I digress. How do voters feel about the 2020 election now?
Yeah, exactly right. This is all based upon the Fugazi idea that Biden didn't legitimately win the election. But again, voters think that Donald Trump is full of it. Biden's 2020 election was legit. Look at this. In December of 2020, look at that. It was 60%. In December of 2024, again, after Donald Trump has been arguing year after year after year that somehow that the election wasn't legit, which of course everybody who knows what they're talking about disagrees with them on because the election was legit. The voters are with the side of truth in this situation. 63% of them believe that Biden's win was legit, despite the garbage coming out of Donald Trump's mouth.
What specifically about mail-in voting regarding 2020 and 2024.
Right, exactly. So let's talk about mail-in voting, right? Mail votes counted as the voters intended. Voters who are confident that that was the case. 59% of voters were in fact confident, the clear majority in 2020. And of course, we just had an election in 2024. Look at that. 75% of voters believe that, in fact, the mail votes were counted as intended. And of course, this rise in confidence is due to Republicans going from 19% to 72%. I just think that this whole idea that Donald Trump is trying to push really just doesn't stay with the American people. He should move on to other issues and shouldn't be taking political advice from Vladimir Putin, who I can't remember the last time he won a democratic election.
Enton has 0 Fs to give. He's been seeing him for a while, which means that I think Enton might be leaving, because you could clearly tell. You could clearly tell the last 2-3 months, Enton kind of, like, he's always been blunt. I remember him; he was there when I was there, but just last 2-3, the snark, he can't help it. The snark is just coming out. And also the snark is, well, and also the truth telling is coming out on Fox. You have the clip of Jessica Tarlov?
Oh, yes, please. Let me go there, because I think that this clip,
to be the curator of the Smithsonian. There are people far more qualified to tell that story. And guess what? I think it's fair. You know, when I've mentioned this before, so in front of an audience that didn't necessarily agree with me, like, it should be okay to say Robert E. Lee is a traitor and we should get his statue down. And it should be okay to just talk about this slavery as one of the worst things in certainly American history and world history.
Dana.
So that's, folks, if I may,
please.
That segment on Fox is my conversation with Joy Reid. Mediocre white men rant. They've been on it for 1 week. They literally proved our thesis, Danielle.
Mm-hmm.
In that conversation,
you see, I just want to point out the chyron that says MSNBC host Joy Reid goes on deranged race rant.
It's literally what me and Danielle have always talked about. We talked about the mediocrity, white supremacy, greed, how they have to destroy the playing field, how the worst of the worst. Literally, we said exactly what I just said right here. White supremacy and greed are the two sins. We talked about how it's always been the same thing, Danielle. And not only that, we predicted that hit dogs would holler, and we predicted that they would have fake tears and outrage over it for a week. They are melting down. Donald Trump cannot confront these terrible poll numbers. So what does he do? We said it last week. He's going to go back to his old tricks. He's going to go back to racism and fascism. Racism and fascism. So people say that's distraction. It's distraction, and it's part and parcel of the project. The white cultural grievance fuels the MAGA movement, folks. Black Little Mermaid, economic anxiety. We'll talk about Cracker Barrel in a second, right? Sydney Sweeney. And now, lo and behold, we have to eliminate DEI in the Smithsonian. Was slavery that bad? Why do they always make us feel bad about slavery? Racism, distraction, racism, distraction, racism, distraction. It goes hand in hand. As Danielle said, I think it's very important. Folks, Texas. Have you seen these southern states coming out and sending the 6 southern states, sending out their National Guard, the 6 states that were part of the Confederacy? Oh, Texas, Texas, where it was the last place to have slavery. And then you had Juneteenth, because afterwards people were like, hey, slavery is over, right? That Texas, where he told the Texas Republicans to begin his gerrymandering. And is it a coincidence that in that Texas, in which they just passed it to pick up 5 seats, there is a black Democratic state representative who has been illegally confined in the state capitol because she says, you know what? I don't want Texas police, white men following me around. Danielle, is it all a coincidence?
Like the slave patrol. No, it's not. And then you have this, right? You have the fact that Trump is laying out 100-seat Republican majority. 100-seat Republican majority. Why? Because of all of the things that we have just laid out, because of all of the ways that the man is underwater, because all the ways that he is wildly unpopular, and because he knows that he can no longer rely on his base to come out in droves and vote for him, because they are finally starting to feel the pain. The leopard is eating their face. They are feeling the pain and the consequences of their cultism and their connection to Donald Trump. And so here you have it. Why does this matter? Because Trump's unrealistic vision of a Republican supermajority in the House relies on a combination of GOP-led states redistricting out Democrats and ending mail-in balloting nationwide. if we do these two things, we will pick up 100 more seats and the crooked game of politics is over. What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
He's telling you the plot.
I mean,
Danielle,
to say then the crooked game of politics is over if we eliminate all democratic representation and redraw these maps and end mail-in voting, so that then military personnel can't vote and diplomats and can't vote and all of these things. Then we'll have this 100-seat majority in America, and then that'll end corruption.
Texas never let us down. Florida, Indiana, others looking to do the same. Republicans, there's one thing even better. Stop mail-in voting. Total fraud has no bounds. Danielle.
My head hurts. Like,
guess
honestly,
who voted by mail-in voting?
Donald Trump.
Guess who allows mail-in voting? Russia. Guess where mail-in voting is legal? United States. Guess who also does mail-in voting? Europe. He did this bold-faced lie on Truth Social, and reporters who are useless did not ask. He said mail-in voting is like banned and illegal everywhere else. What are you talking about, right? So Putin put another worm in his head, because he's Putin's, you know what?
Put another worm in his head.
Yeah, Putin's pet. And Putin realized it. Dude, Donald Trump is completely compromised. I don't know why. It's clear to anyone he's completely compromised by Vladimir Putin. Maybe it's hero worship. Maybe it's money. Maybe it's compromise. I don't know what. Putin is an enemy of the United States of America. Putin comes in here, acts like he's the king, dominates Danielle, that press conference, speaks for 8 minutes in Russian. He knows English, speaks in Russian on purpose, gets a red carpet. Donald Trump applauds for him. Donald Trump speaks for 2 minutes, no follow-up with press. Then Zelensky comes. Zelensky has to come with the friggin' European Avengers. And then, even then, no concessions are asked of Russia. Russia's the one that has invaded Ukraine. Russia's the one that's occupying Ukraine. But now Donald Trump is saying, okay, Ukraine, I guess you got to give up 30% of what Russia's occupying, Crimea, come on now. He's a compromised, corrupt Bulgarian who wants to spend $200 million to revitalize the White House. I don't know if you saw news from today. The reason why he was speaking about the grass yesterday, in his weird, twisted mind, he wants to invest $2 billion to redo D.C.
He doesn't even live there. So
and make it like Mar-a-Lago. But guess what, Danielle? Bad news travels fast. And I know Stephen Miller and racists and any trolls watching us right now, you might think this is good news, this next thing we're about to show you. This ain't bueno. The last time immigrants started fleeing America, you know what it was? 2008, during the worst recession since the Great Depression. Bad news travels fast. Danielle, can you please tell people why this is no bueno?
Oh, it's actually terrible news. But when I went to pull this from X, all of the comments, these like white nationalists in the comments, or these white troll bots, they're saying, yes, double the number, blah, blah. This is why this is bad. 1.5 million immigrants have left the U.S. so far, right? Here's why it matters. It's the first time the immigrant population has fallen in decades, a clear win for the Trump administration. It could slow the economy. How about it will slow the economy? Labor shortages in important industries like caregiving, agriculture, and meatpacking already showing up anecdotally could become a more systematic problem. By the numbers, in January, the foreign-born population hit an all-time high of 53.3 million, driven by a surge during the Biden administration. Since then, data from the census current population survey analyzed by Pew shows a decline. By June, the immigrant population had dropped to 51.9. 19% of the labor force were immigrants as of June, down from 20% last year. That's a decrease of more than 750,000 workers. Zoom out, the decline is mostly due to deportation and immigrants voluntarily leaving the country, fearing the crackdown. Again, that is 750,000 workers since when, Waj? January.
Folks, immigrants are the fuel of this country. Immigrants do all the jobs y'all don't want to do. You like fruits and vegetables? Thank the immigrants. You like eating out? Thank the immigrants. You like having someone drive you around? Thank the immigrants. Wherever immigrants have gone, the data has shown the economy gets better. Immigrants are also very entrepreneurial. Foreign-born people commit less crimes than people born here. Undocumented immigrants, even though they don't have to, actually gave more money in taxes than Donald Trump has. Without immigrants, that the birth rate. I did a TED talk on this that Elon Musk is obsessed about for all the eugenics reasons. Who is keeping the birth rate from even falling even lower in America? Wait for it. Immigrants. Who goes to these deserts in the Rust Belt towns and does the work because the young people are fleeing? Immigrants. The fact that immigrants are leaving and not coming here, and the fact that the tourists are not visiting, is a sign that people have realized we're in some shithole territory.
And I'll say this as an anecdote before we end on the Cracker Barrel note, because Byron Donalds is an idiot.
It's exquisite.
But I will say this: I live in Brooklyn, as folks know, and I live in a fairly diverse community. Brooklyn is very diverse, and I go into my local Lebanese market where I go and get my pita and hummus and labna every week.
I'm like, you go to a Lebanese place, you better get your labna.
And my garlic labna. Yeah. And it's a family run business. And all the time it's always like, hello, sweetie, like what can we get for you? Like blah, blah. And this time, as he's ringing me up, and the owner is handing me my stuff, and he goes, and he's just like, anything else? And I said, no. I said, this is great. Have a really good day. And he goes, just remember. And I said, what? And he goes, we're here to help you. Wow. I have gone in that store every week for 5 years since I moved to this area. And the way that he looked at me was just like, just remember, we're here to help. I walked out of that store, Waj, and like almost started crying because this whole block is all Muslim shops and shop owners, food places, restaurants. During Ramadan, the block lights up for wishing happy Ramadan, and it's like wonderful. It's one of the only areas I think in New York that does that, and for him to say that, right, just broke my heart. This store has been there for decades. Decades. And he's like, just remember, we're here to help you.
Folks, white supremacy and greed, the twin sins of America, the avatars Donald Trump, and those twin sins that we always warned about on this show for 3 years. If we don't confront it, if we don't acknowledge it, if we don't eradicate it, will be our undoing. It's happening in real time. The one good news is there's more of us than there are of them. We've always said that. There are more of us than there are of them, and he's panicked. All the stuff we've said today, it's a lot. It's terrible news. But the reason why he's doing it, folks, the underlying reason is he's weak. They know they can't win in a legal way. They don't have the numbers, so they got to cheat. They got to remove mail-in voting. They got to redistrict. They got to gerrymander. Breaking news just happened. Pardon me, folks. If I was looking to my right, it's because I've set up 2 screens just to look at some of the breaking news.
Because Waj doesn't sleep, so you got one thing.
Yeah, literally. So that's why if you see me looking here, that's what I was looking at. Speaking about some of those who work forces are the same who burn crosses, right? Rage Against the Machine news. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has authorized the National Guard to carry weapons in D.C. deployment. Slave patrol all over again, folks. It's fascism. And folks, people always say, well, white supremacy, if it's white supremacy, how do you explain Kash Patel? If it's white supremacy, how do you explain Vivek Ramaswamy? If it's white supremacy, how do you explain Alina Habba? And with that, Danielle, close out our show to explain that all.
There are so many names, I say, that I could call Byron Donalds, but I am a person of class, and I choose to keep those names deep inside. But how
deep?
My God, does this post just air out how fucking pathetic Byron Donalds is. So here he posts, in college, I worked at a Cracker Barrel in Tallahassee. I even gave my folks, hold on to your hats.
I had to read it twice.
I even gave my life to Christ in their parking lot. Their logo was iconic and their unique restaurants were a fixture of American culture. No one asked for this woke rebrand. It's time to make Cracker Barrel great again.
Can't make this up. You can't make this up.
You know, and all I can say is that had Byron Donalds gone to therapy to figure out what the fuck was going on in that Cracker Barrel parking lot while he decided to give his life to God in a Cracker Barrel parking lot, or give his black card there as well, he is just an embarrassment to his country, to his constituents, to black people everywhere. He is just an embarrassment. And this like I don't even know what you call it. I don't even know what you call it. But I gave my life to Christ in the parking lot. Shut the entire fuck up. Like,
and the fact that if your entire identity is tied to the logo of a shitty restaurant, you need to find Jesus. And folks,
and it's not going to be at the Cracker Barrel.
Yeah, like if you're melting down over a logo, but not melting down over the fact that Pete Hegseth has authorized the National Guard to carry weapons in the nation's capital, or the fact that rich people get permanent tax cuts at the expense of Medicaid, or the fact that Donald Trump is spending $200 million on renovating the ballroom, but we can't find money for cancer research, or the fact that our economy is tanking and immigrants are being rounded up. If this is what pisses you off, you need to find Jesus. Have a find Jesus moment, folks. It's a distraction, and it's part and parcel of the project, the racism. They're attacking Smithsonian. They're embracing slavery. They're trying to redo the Confederacy. You know, they're trying to get rid of DEI. Sydney Sweeney, they tried to get something about that. Joy Reid interview, they tried. Now they're trying about Cracker Barrel. It's part and parcel of the fascist white supremacist project that began in the 18th century and has never ended. The lost cause, folks, the lost cause. It's the same old story. But here we are on Democracy-ish, and we'll fight back and give a better story. We have 1,700 people watching on the YouTubes and the Twitters. And Danielle, we have 1,300 people watching on Substack. So thank you to the 3,000 people who are watching. This is Democracy-ish with Waj and Danielle. We're on Monday and Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern times. Wednesday, 3 p.m. on Substack for our midweek check-in. We are terrible capitalists, but we are not fools. We have deliberately kept everything for free. There are no paywalls to Danielle's Damn Digest. You have to subscribe. If you can subscribe, it's for free. I'm at the left hook. It's for free. If you have a few dollars, give it to Danielle. If you have another few dollars, give it to me. I have 800 kids. Danielle, you're watching this. If you're on YouTube, you're watching this on YouTube, Danielle Moody's YouTube channel. We're trying to get her to 50,000 subscribers. And Danielle, final word to you.
I just want to say, you know, folks, I know that everything feels bleak, is bleak, looks bleak. But you continue to show up here. You show up for Waj for his 16,000 shows that he's hosting on the left hook. You show up here for me on this YouTube channel. You show up for each other in the chat. And we're all about building community, building conversation, and building the resistance one episode at a time. So we just want to say thank you. We appreciate you. Take care of yourselves this weekend. Do something joyful. Connect with family. Connect with friends. We appreciate every single dollar that comes through here that helps us do the work that we do. We will see you back on Monday, 12 p.m. Eastern. Waj, tell them to go watch whatever interview you're doing right now.
I'm a minute late, but it's okay. I have Matt Gertz from Media Matters. He has a fantastic piece out on how the damning revelations about Fox's 2020 election lies from Smartmatic's filings, and the fact that Newsmax just had to pay another $70 million settlement. So we're talking about how right-wing media is not only fueling Trump's fascism, but how it's also cracking. So I'm going to hop off in a second and join to be on my Left Hook Substack. And then Danielle, your show is?
My show is back on Monday, folks. The Danielle Moody Show is live Monday through Thursday. I post throughout the weekend, so make sure that you subscribe so that you never miss any of the videos that go up all weekend long. We appreciate you. We will see you back Monday, 12 p.m. Eastern. Go watch Waj on his Substack right now because he doesn't sleep.
Take care, everyone. Have a good weekend. Thanks, Danielle.
Thank you.